CIU Nation, CIU Podcast, Berkeley College of Law. We are back. I'm back here today. This is Dr. Williams, and I'm here with Professor
Chris Kempson.
Kempson. We here with our weekly podcast. The last time we gave an overview of the Bill of Rights, and today we want to start a series. We'll go from the first 10 amendments, of course, they're called Bill of Rights. So we'll go with 1, 2, 3. We'll just go through the entire 10 amendment first. But first, we'll start with the first Bill of Rights there. One that talk about, freedom of press, freedom of religious expression, freedom to protest, and all of the freedom that come of petition and other things. And so, of course, with me, like I say, is Professor Chris Kempson, and he will actually be the lead person in discussing these as the moderator. I'm the moderator asking questions and listening to him as we discuss this. So let me give the floor to you. How are you going to start this series, Professor Kempson? Let me see, how we can begin with Article 1 of the Bill of Rights.
Good morning, Dr. Williams, and good morning, CIU Nation, and welcome back to our constitutional series with the Bill of Rights. So, as we talked about last time, the Constitution, marvelous living document. Drafted in 1787, ratified in 1789, and basically focusing on the cornerstone of liberty, democracy, the separation of powers. This was big in the minds of our colonial leaders back then who drafted the Constitution. Thomas Jefferson, the primary draft of the Constitution. He wanted, remember, they wanted independence from the British colonies. So they came up with the first 10 amendments, the Bill of Rights, and these rights are centered around the individual.
Mm-hmm.
The Constitution itself was ratified December 15th, 1791. The amendments were introduced to ensure that the individual protections were in there, that they were designed to protect the individual from big, strong government overreach, and basically addressing the concerns back then of the anti-federalists,
Mm-hmm.
and primarily the southern states.
Right.
So this morning, we're going to talk about the First Amendment.
Mm-hmm.
And everybody's familiar with the First Amendment. Oh, I can say what I want and do what I want, and so forth and so on. Well, that's generally, for the most part, true. However, there always are exceptions. So the First Amendment guarantees freedoms concerning with religion, expression, assembly, and the right to petition. So as we talk about that, the religion, and we're talking about this here, the basic foundation of the separation of church and state. Because remember, we were getting away from colonial and England, the monarchy at that time, and the church and state were basically almost one and the same. There was a national religion, the Church of England, which was by the monarchy, by the king. So you had no separation of church and state. Here, the guarantee of religion prohibits Congress from establishing a national religion, protects individual rights to practice religion freely, which is the Free Exercise Clause. And then the Establishment Clause prohibits Congress from, like I said, establishing that natural religion. Well, what does that mean to us from an everyday standpoint? Basically, that means that you are free to worship however you wish, whenever you wish, wherever you wish.
Right.
Now, I said before, there are generally some caveats and exceptions to this, okay? And once you take our constitutional law class, you will learn that the Constitution itself is a basic foundational framework of our rule of law. And that rule of law has since been crafted by all three branches of the government. The legislative branch makes the law and basically interprets what the people want. They are the elected officials, so the rule of the governed. And the judicial branch, which we are part of, to me is the most important branch. We take that law and we basically interpret it against what the Constitution, what the founding fathers intended, those original words. And we look at that and we say, okay, freedom of religion compared to when it was drafted, the ability of the individual to speak and worship as they wish. So how is that protected? Speech is the second one.
Right.
Ensures the right.
Before you move on to
Is,
speak, let me, it is, you mentioned how the, the government in charge was like pretty much, insane in the British, UK system. And now they come to America and they look like out of the Anglican church, all Christianity. So,
right.
when they say freedom of religion, what was the original intent just on Christianity? Did they foresee that there will be Muslim coming of religion that doesn't, for example, honor the salute the flag because of religious conscience? That's what the religious belief that do not. We have Muhammad Ali who say, "I'm not going to go to war because of my religious conscience," and we have all of these different religious organizations with different identity that sprang up after the initial enactment of the Constitution. Now the question is, we ask ourselves, yes, the Congress is prohibited to generate laws, to govern religion. Well, but we have all of these, and then we say America is some claim it's a Christian nation. So how do you navigate all of these different things? Do you want to subvert the will of the Constitution, what it said, to enforce to say, well, with people with second religious identification, maybe some threat to us, we cannot let them in the country. So then we live with them because of national security or other things that others may claim. So the fundamental idea, of course, it still comes down to that. You cannot pass law, discriminate against people, any religion, because of their belief. There's freedom of worship of any kind. Of course, there's some caveats. So anyway, I just wanted to throw that in, but let me let you move on to speech.
The speech. So let's talk about it. And as I said, back then, they wanted to make sure that they could speak out against the government. They didn't want any reprisals from the king. And as I told you, that allows us to be able, the freedom, most commonly known as the freedom of expression.
Mm-hmm.
You were able to express your thoughts, your ideas in word, in oration, and the internet. And as I said, generally, right, there are limits.
Mm-hmm.
There are limits. And again, you take constitutional law and you'll learn all about this.
Yep.
You'll learn that Justice Oliver Wendell Holmes and and I'm going to use the word restricting free speech here, but it's not really a restriction of free speech. It is the crafting, the design of a left and right limit of what we can and cannot say or what we should or should not say. And the case of the United States is the 1919 case. Justice Oliver Holmes, it dealt with speaking out against the government against the draft. And against the Espionage Act of 1917, and his famous quote of not yelling fire in a crowded theater, and that case stayed as good case law, until many years later, through the late 1960s, 1969, Brandenburg, and the Brandenburg case and the judicial standard review called the Eminent Lawless Action Test, basically was codified or quantified by a previous case of mass publishing. That was Judge Learned Hand in 1917. Sure. And what he said then, Judge Learned Hand from New York said that citizens stop short of urging upon others that it's their duty or in their interest to resist the law. So lawless action or the incitement test. Basically, when you talk about hate speech or inflammatory speech or speech that incites others to insurrection or riot, and again, in the news today, obviously, this is a very big topic right now, right? And the court will eventually rule on this, that they will rule on that. The third tenet, press, protects the right to publish news, information, and opinions. Again,
I think we'll do that in the second video, the press and the right to assembly protest. We'll do those two together in petition. But yeah, just to add on to that freedom of expression, right? So we love it. That's what set America apart from any other country in the world. We can say our opinion. We love to talk. We love to say, that is it. We love to tell people what to do. We love everywhere we go, even when we travel in different countries. We tell them what you're doing is wrong. We just love to talk. We got all this freedom. And sometimes we just don't know when to stop talking. But if you forget we're in a different country, we still think we are in America, and that freedom goes on, doesn't matter where we go. But of course, there's a limit, and we're seeing that as people talk, we had many issues during the Civil War. I mean, and during World War I and II, and even the Vietnam War, we had other these instances when people are protesting against the war. You can't do this, and they're like, "You're unpatriotic. You are this. You're that." And so there was these challenges that always would come about. But again, like Professor Kempson would say, come to a constitutional law class, and you get more details, in-depth knowledge and discussion of this topic. So that said, we have this as a two-part series. We discussed the first one, religion, and now freedom of expression, and then the next part would be the next topic that follow what a protest, a petition, right to assemble another part. Okay, so thank you, Professor Kempson. Thank you so much for this one. And I want to tell our listener thank you. They should tune in for the second part two of this series, right?
Very good. Thank you, Dr. Williams. And let's come join us in part 2.